I've moved 13 times in 30 years of military life. 13 different states, different time zones, different posts. And I can tell you that most Army installations follow the same basic template. There's the post, there's the town outside the gate that exists mostly because of the post, and there's a 2-hour drive to anything else. Fort Leavenworth breaks that template, not a little, structurally. And the reason has almost nothing to do with the Army and almost everything to do with a line on a map about 2 minutes east of the gate. Hi, my name is Katie Payne, your local Kansas City real estate agent. I specialize in military relocation, and today I'm going to walk you through 7 things that make this assignment different from the 10 largest posts in the Army. The airport, the state line, the job market, affordability, the rental math, the military resources, and where growth is actually happening. Some of these are genuinely better. A couple of them are honestly worse. I'll tell you which is which. We'll start with what Fort Leavenworth actually is, because it drives everything else. Fort Leavenworth was built in 1827. It's the oldest continuously operating Army installation west of the Mississippi River. And the Army calls it the intellectual center of the Army for a reason. This is the home of the Combined Arms Center and the Command and General Staff College. The class of 2026 at the Command and General Staff Officer course was 966 students. 120 of those were international officers, representing 92 different countries. Fort Leavenworth has been educating foreign officers since 1894, more than 8,700 of them from roughly 170 nations. And in permanent party at Fort Leavenworth, it holds about 5,000 military members. Now, compare that to the 10 largest Army posts. Fort Bragg supports something like 260,000 people, Fort Hood, 200 to 250,000, Fort Campbell, Fort Bliss, Fort Stewart, Fort Carson, JBLM, Fort Riley, Fort Benning, Fort Sill round out the 10 largest posts. Those are operational installations, divisions, corps headquarters, brigade combat teams, deployment cycles, field rotations, and the kind of tempo where the Army owns your calendar when you find out your dates. Fort Leavenworth runs on an academic calendar. That is a completely different life. You arrive in summer, you know when the course starts, you know roughly when it ends, your soldier is home for dinner most nights, your family is together for the whole tour instead of half of it. And here's the piece nobody puts in the welcome packet. A predictable timeline can be a real estate advantage. When you know your window, you can make a decision about buying instead of defaulting to a lease because you're scared of the unknown. Okay, so the map thing. Fort Leavenworth sits in Kansas. 2 minutes east, you're in Missouri, and you are still inside the Kansas City metro, a metro of roughly 2.3 million people that just happens to be sliced down the middle by a state border. Here's what most people miss. The BAH, or Basic Allowance for Housing, at Fort Leavenworth includes zip codes in both states. Kansas zips like Leavenworth, Lansing, Basehor, and Tonganoxie, and Missouri zips up in Platte County and the Northland. Same BAH, 2 state governments. That means 2 tax codes, 2 school systems, 2 sets of professional licensing boards, 2 insurance markets, 2 property tax structures, and 2 sets of local governments competing for the same residents. That brings us to 3 practical consequences. 1, for retirees, both Kansas and Missouri fully exempt military retirement pay from state income tax. Missouri went to a full exemption in 2024. So if you're retiring here, you can pick whichever side of the line fits your budget and your family without giving up that benefit. That is not true at every post. There are still states that will take a bite out of your pension. Number 2, spouse licensing. Kansas passed House Bill 2066 back in 2021. It cut the wait for a temporary occupational license for military spouses and service members from 60 days down to 15. Missouri has its own accommodations, including temporary admission for military spouse attorneys under Rule 8.106. If you're a nurse, a teacher, a therapist, a broker, a stylist, you've got 2 state boards to work with instead of 1, and one of them is genuinely fast. 3. Options. If Kansas property taxes don't work for your number, you look at Missouri. If the school district you want is on the other side, you cross. You're not stuck. Now, here's an honest caveat, because I'm not going to oversell this. Fort Leavenworth is not the only post on a state line. Fort Campbell straddles Kentucky and Tennessee. Fort Bliss is right up against New Mexico. The difference is what's on the other side. At Leavenworth, the second state isn't a rural county. It's half of a major metro with its own airport, its own employers, and its own housing market. This is the one I think is most underrated, and it's the one I get the most emotional about because I have been the spouse standing in a regional airport at 5 a.m. praying the connection holds. Kansas City International, or MCI, opened a brand new single terminal in February of 2023. Not a renovation, a new building. It served 11.5 million passengers in 2025 after a record 12.1 million in 2024. 13 carriers, around 57 nonstop destinations across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It's a base for both Southwest and Delta. And here's the geography that matters. MCI sits about 15 miles northwest of downtown Kansas City in Platte County, which it means it's closer to Fort Leavenworth than it is to most of the metro it serves. You're looking at roughly a 35 to 45-minute drive for post, depending on where you land in Leavenworth County. The route map keeps growing too. Just in 2026, United added daily nonstop service to LAX, Southwest added daily Boston, plus weekend service to Savannah and Norfolk, and weekly service to Punta Cana. Delta added twice daily Austin, Allegiant is adding Fort Lauderdale in October, and Frontier is adding Orlando in November. Now, why does any of this matter to a military family? If you're a spouse who travels for work, and more of you do every year because remote and hybrid roles are how a lot of spouses finally are building a real career. This is the difference between a job you can keep and a job you can't. A Tuesday morning nonstop to Boston is a career. 2 connections through Dallas is a resignation letter. If you've got a kid at university, they can get home for a long weekend and you can get to them. If you've got aging parents somewhere else in the country, and if you're at CGSC, statistically, a lot of you do, that flight matters more than anything else on this list. And if you're an international student, your family can actually come visit you during your year here. Compare that honestly to the top 10. Fort Polk in Louisiana routes you through Alexandria, which is small. Fort Irwin is a couple of hours from anything with a jet bridge. Fort Drum sends you to Watertown or 90 minutes to Syracuse. Fort Sill families largely drive to Oklahoma City. Fort Riley has Manhattan Regional, is convenient but limited to a handful of connecting hubs. Some of the big posts do have good air service. JBLM has SeaTac, Fort Bliss has El Paso, Fort Carson has Colorado Springs, plus Denver 90 minutes up the road. But the posts with the best airports are also, almost without exception, the posts with the highest housing costs. Which brings us to the money. If you're headed this way, drop a comment and tell me where you're coming from. I'd love to send you my Fort Leavenworth relocation guide. Now, I'm going to give you the good and the bad here because I've watched people move to a market on a promise and get burned. Let's start with the good. The federal government is the single largest employer in the greater Kansas City area. close to 30,000 workers across the metro. The IRS, the Social Security Administration, USDA, EPA Region 7, GSA, Kansas City ranks 8th among the 50 largest U.S. metros for the share of its workforce employed by the federal government. For a military spouse or a retiring service member, that concentration matters because federal hiring understands your resume. Military spouse preference, veterans preference, PCS gaps in employment history, those are known quantities in a federal HR office in a way they simply are not in a lot of private sector markets. Add to that the clearance work ecosystem. Honeywell's national security campus is here, so are Garmin, Burns and McDonnell, Black & Veatch, and Oracle Health. If you're leaving service with a clearance, that clearance has a market here. Now, here's the honest part. The federal workforce has been shrinking. Kansas City lost roughly 2,800 federal jobs in the recent round of reductions. The metro overall lost about 3,600 jobs in 2025. The Mid-America Regional Council projects recovery beginning in 2026 and accelerating into 2027, but 2025 was a down year, and anyone telling you otherwise is selling you something. The bright spots are real but uneven. Construction was up 9.3% locally in 2025, the biggest sector gain by far, driven largely by data centers. There are more than 50 data centers projects proposed, under construction, or running in the KC area. Meta's billion-dollar Northland campus is operational. Google has 2 campuses going. Panasonic's battery plant in DeSoto opened in 2025. It employs around 1,800 and is targeting 4,000. But be clear-eyed, data centers are enormous construction employers and modest permanent employers. Meta's Northland campus supports about 100 ongoing jobs. If you're a spouse looking for work in 2027, the construction boom isn't your job. The federal and healthcare sectors probably are. Where Leavenworth still wins on this metric, almost none of the 10 largest posts sit inside a metro area of 2 million people. Fayetteville around Bragg is roughly 500,000. Columbus, Georgia around Benning is about a third of that. Killeen, Lawton, Junction City, Watertown, Leesville, those are good towns with limited depth. Colorado Springs and Seattle, Tacoma have real economies, and they also have real housing prices. Leavenworth gives you metro depth at Midwest cost. That combination is rare. Quick but important, because the area is growing is a meaningless sentence if you don't know where. Growth in this county is not evenly distributed. Leavenworth City itself grows slowly and steadily. It's a historic town, largely built out with a lot of pre-1940 housing stock. The fast growth is west and south. Basehor, Lansing, and the Piper Corridor on the Kansas City, Kansas side. Basehor is the priciest submarket in the county. Median list prices have been running north of $500,000, and it's where most of the new construction is. Lansing sits between the two on price and has its own school district. Piper gives you newer inventory with a shorter run to the Legends and to I-435. Metro-wide, the investment is genuine. The streetcar riverfront extension, the West Bottoms redevelopment, the current landing district next to CPKC Stadium, and Kansas City hosting matches for the 2026 World Cup. That last one is a one-summer event, not a housing strategy, but the infrastructure spending around it is permanent. Here's a category where Leavenworth punches above its size. On-post services, there's Munson Army Health Center. Coming from a large installation where there's a hospital on post, you'll have to get used to going off post for some of your specialty care, because Munson is a clinic, not a hospital. And of course, we have the commissary and exchange. It will be smaller than places like Hood, Bragg, and Campbell. Frontier Heritage Communities runs the post housing, And we have the Combined Arms Research Library, which is genuinely excellent library that your family can use, and USD 207, the on-post school district serving pre-K through 9th grade. High schoolers attend Leavenworth High off-post. Now off-post, and this is the part that surprises people, the Dwight D. Eisenhower VA Medical Center is right here in the city of Leavenworth, a full VA medical center in a town of about 37,000. Plus, the Kansas City VA Medical Center is about 40 minutes away. Think about what that means if you're retiring. At a lot of installations, the nearest VA Medical Center is a 60 to 90 minute drive each way, and you're planning your whole month around an appointment. Here, it's across town. That's a big part of why Leavenworth has such a deep military retiree community, and why so many CGSC graduates end up back here 15 years later. They remember the year and they remember the infrastructure. That's what happened to my family. Let's do the numbers. 2026 BAH for the Fort Leavenworth housing area went up 4.5%. An E5 with dependents gets $1,815 a month. The range across the military housing allowance runs from about $1,410 at the bottom to $2,625 for an 07 with dependents. Fort Leavenworth ranks roughly 39th highest among Army installations for BAH. Now, hold on to the next two housing costs. Average rent in the city of Leavenworth typically runs less than your national average. On the purchase side, Zillow puts the average Leavenworth County home value around $346,000, up about 4%. Median sale prices in the city of Leavenworth have been running in the mid-280s, with county-wide medians higher because of Basehor and Lansing. So mid-pack BAH, well below average housing costs, that gap is the whole ballgame. It's why families here can buy at a payment their BAH sustainably covers, which is not the experience at Carson or JBLM. Now, the rental angle, because this is the strategy question I get most. Roughly half of Leavenworth households rent, and the renter pool here is structurally renewable in a way it might not be in most towns. Nearly 1,000 CGSC students arrive every single year, plus faculty, plus staff, plus students in the other schools on post. That's a tenant base with BAH-backed income and a predictable arrival date every summer. The market is tight right now, about 2.3 months of supply, and well-priced homes are going under contract fast. The honest counterweight, rents here are low in absolute terms, so the rent to price ratio is not automatically favorable, especially on newer construction in Basehor. A house that cash flows in Leavenworth City might not in Basehor at the same rent ceiling. Run the actual numbers on the actual house. Don't buy a rental on a vibe. So who is Fort Leavenworth actually right for? If you want a predictable year where your family is together, a real airport, a spouse job market with actual depth, 2 states to choose from, and housing you can afford on your allowance, this is one of the best assignments in the Army. I'll say that plainly, and I've seen a lot of them. Who is it wrong for? If you need mountains out your window, or an ocean, or big city nightlife at your doorstep, this is the Midwest. Winters are real, summers are humid. Leavenworth is a small town with a historical post attached. But if you're weighing this against Bragg, Hood, Campbell, or Carson and trying to figure out what you're actually getting, the answer is time with your family, a runway for your spouse's career, and a housing market where the math works in your favor instead of against it. I've PCS 13 times. This is the one I stayed for. If you're PCSing in and you want to talk through where to land, Leavenworth, Lansing, Basehor, Piper, or across the line into Missouri, call or text me. No pressure, no pitch. I'll just tell you what I'd tell a friend. I'm here to help. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.